Hey, welcome to the only sports channel that tries less than Albert Haynesworth did in his Washington Redskins career. My name's Brian. I just got off a 12-hour shift because I need to pay my bills, and I'm never going to make any money doing this. No talent. All right. So, the wild card weekend just wrapped up, and everyone's talking about the teams that were eliminated and what they need to do to fix their rosters in the offseason to advance further in the playoffs. And the one team I want to point out is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to talk about how they can fix. I think they're in a deeper hole than most teams that made the wild card. I think, oddly, they're closer to the teams that are drafting in the top 10 of the draft than the other wild card teams that were eliminated. And how they can do and fix that, what I would do to fix it, and what I think they are going to do. So, the Pittsburgh Steelers, right now, they get 9, 10, 11 sometimes wins every year. Make the playoffs. They get invited to the party. And then they promptly show up, drink too much, hit on your wife, and get thrown out. That's been them since 2016. Their last playoff win was against the Kansas City Chiefs with Alex Smith. Alex Smith was the quarterback of the Chiefs. They won 18-16. And then since then they've lost 5 or 6 in a row, and they were down by 21 points in each of those losses. Some they clawed back in to make it closer, but down by 21. That when you're down by 3 touchdowns that many times in a row, there's a problem. And that's why if I ran the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm firing Mike Tomlin. I think he's a good coach. I really do. Like there's two. Mike Tomlin, for some reason, is one of the more divisive coaches in the NFL. There's a large swath of people that think he sucks. I think he's terrible and he should be fired. I don't think he sucks. I think he's still a very good quarterback, very good head coach. The problem is I don't think he can elevate a team. I think he's a defensive-minded coach, but when you start getting ran over like you did by Baltimore, how effective are you now with your defensive? Everybody, has the game moved past them? Offensively, the Steelers have been garbage for years. From what they didn't have a succession plan at quarterback, and it has shown. So I'm going to break into why I think Mike Tomlin should be fired. I don't think they're going to actually fire him. I really don't. I think Pittsburgh's going to keep him. I think the Rooneys are too loyal to that. But I would fire him only if I could get a up-and-coming coach. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, Joe Brady, somebody else we don't know about. Coach hirings, you can tell, we have no clue. Us idiots out here as fans, we don't know. But then those idiots on TV don't know. Adam Gase, when he got hired by Miami, everyone was like, all the people on TV said about this is a great hire. Man, Miami got a good one. Adam Gase would you want Adam Gase? I would rather anybody coach a football team that I liked than Adam Gase. In Detroit, when they hired Matt Patricia, everyone thought that was a great hire. When they hired Dan Campbell, everyone was like, what are they doing hiring Dan Campbell? Once again, shows that we don't know anything, and then they don't know anything. So, Mike Tomlin, they're not going to fire him. They're not. I would move on, but they're not. So if I was, what I'm hoping they do is they force him to move on from Arthur Smith. And this is one reason why I would fire Mike Tomlin. He has hired terrible offensive coordinators. Matt Canada. I'm sorry, Pittsburgh, that you had to suffer through Matt Canada. He has to be one of the worst offensive coordinators in history. I don't know how he got the job. He's terrible. Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator for Chicago, he got fired and he got a job with the Raiders. Now he lasted 5 weeks, but still, he got a job. Matt Canada didn't get a job. That's how bad he was. And then they move on from Matt Canada. Who do they hire? Arthur fucking Smith. Why would you hire this guy? Now, if you look into it, technically, he was a good offensive coordinator when he was with the Titans. But he also had, was AJ, I think AJ Brown was there. But his big thing was he had Derrick Henry. He had Derrick Henry, who was just just absolutely destroying, eating up defenses, and then running play action with Ryan Tannehill. So I'll give him credit for turning Tannehill from a bust into a serviceable quarterback for a couple years. Like, Tannehill actually did well. But that philosophy that Arthur Smith does of winning, hey, we're going to try to win 17-14 and run as little plays as possible and grind out the clock. I don't think that works in a modern NFL. That worked in maybe 1997. It doesn't really work. I know people will say, well, the Chiefs, they don't try to outscore a lot of teams. The Chiefs, yeah, their offense isn't as dynamic as it used to be. But still, they are capable of scoring. And I think you can get away with trying to score low when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. I still don't think that I think the Chiefs are doing it out of necessity because their wide receiver group isn't that great. But it's not really what they want to do. That's Arthur Smith's whole game plan, it seems, is win 17-14 and let's make this game as boring as possible. And it's dumb. It leaves so little wiggle room, and to me it doesn't work in the modern NFL. Look at what the Titans, when they were the number one seed. People forget they were the number one seed and they got smoked their first game. Like, they were one of the most fraudulent number one seeds in history. And because Arthur Smith's offense is just so boring and boilerplate, where it's just like, hey, we're going to do this, that, and we're not going to try to actually put a lot of points on the board. And I don't mean to break this to people, Arthur Smith. I know this is a video of me running down Arthur Smith right now, but you win the game by scoring more points than the other team. It doesn't matter if they scored 35, as long as you scored 36, you're going to win. So the whole Arthur Smith, let's bring him in as a replacement of Matt Canada, that just looks bad on Tomlin, to me, because he's the one making those calls. So that's why I would fire him first most. And secondly, maybe he just ran his time out in Pittsburgh. Maybe they're not behind the message anymore. Sometimes a change of scenery is good. McCarthy left Green Bay to, honestly, mixed results in Dallas eventually. But Andy Reid had a great run in Philadelphia. He left Philadelphia. They end up winning a title, and Andy Reid has done pretty well in Kansas City. So it's not necessarily as a bad coach. Sometimes you just need a different spot, a change of scenery. So that's why I would move on from Mike Tomlin. They're not going to. At the very least, I would, if I was Pittsburgh, I would say you need a different offensive coordinator, and we want X, Y, and Z. We want somebody who's actually going to try to score on offense like they should. So that brings to the personnel. Their biggest hole right now is quarterback. And this is an organizational thing where this isn't Mike Tomlin's fault. Because I don't know, he doesn't, as far as I know, he doesn't have player personnel decision. There's much, maybe he has, I'm sure he's got a little bit. But they did not have a succession plan for Ben Roethlisberger, which a lot of teams don't do that. But Roethlisberger hung on there at the end of his career where he wasn't the same Ben Roethlisberger. And they should have, you could have drafted Lamar Jackson. Like, now, a lot of teams could have drafted Lamar Jackson. Obviously, that's a rare thing. But why more teams don't look in like the Green Bay model of like, oh, hey, this quarterback was projected top 10. They're sliding. Let's take them and sit him for a while and see what happens. They could have had Jordan Love at a certain point. And now they're stuck. Once Roethlisberger was limped to the finish line and now they moved on, they tried Kenny Pickett. And I think Kenny Pickett slightly unfairly, because let's look at that team last year. Offensive line was terrible. Their wide receivers were terrible. The running, the whole thing was just a cluster fuck last year. So I don't necessarily blame Kenny Pickett. When I was talking to somebody else about the whole Pittsburgh Steelers, a friend who's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I put it as this when they said about Russell Wilson. It's like, Kenny Pickett got the Steelers to the playoffs last year. And so did Russell Wilson this year. Russell Wilson couldn't get the Broncos to the playoffs, but Bo Nix got the Broncos to the playoffs this year. I know, terrible sports math. It's really apples to orange. But I think it kind of is a little bit truth to that, where would you rather have Bo Nix or would you rather have Russell Wilson right now? And a lot of people just tore into the Broncos for taking Bo Nix when they took him. But who would you rather have a quarterback? So they need to fix the quarterback situation, because they let it fester, and now It's just an open, just disgusting wound. What I would do is let Russell Wilson walk. I think he wants to be back. I think Russell Wilson's lost. Russell Wilson is washed. I think he's done as an elite quarterback. He is at best an average game manager. I would bring back Justin Fields. If he wants to be back and at a reasonable contract. If Russell Wilson wants, if Justin Fields wants $30 million a year, I would balk at that. I would try to talk him into a 1 year, $10 million, prove it, or maybe a 2 year, $20 million, where he can opt out if he does really well and renegotiate. I would try to focus around Justin Fields. Maybe I'm a Justin Fields simp here, but I always felt that he had so much potential and he could be an elite quarterback. You look at what they did in Chicago. They did not set him up to succeed. They set him up to suck, pretty much. He didn't have anything around him, and he got the same amount of wins that Caleb Williams did this year with a much worse. He had nothing around him compared to what Caleb Williams has. And that's not a knock necessarily on Caleb Williams. He's a rookie, and they went through a lot of stuff. But I was like, I'm not blaming Justin Fields for his failures in Chicago. I'm blaming Chicago for it. So I think him being benched this year was the biggest mistake Mike Tomlin made, well, other than Arthur Smith. And the reason why is like, okay, let's give him a full season. We know what Russell Wilson has. Russell Wilson, you take out those two big games against Cincinnati and Cincinnati and I believe the Giants when he had 3 touchdowns, but he had a 50% he had a 50% completion rate. You take out those 2 games and he does not. His stats are terrible. So bring back Justin Fields. Try to build around him. Give him 2 actual years to develop. And if he's just terrible, you can move on. Put you in position to draft a quarterback. If you can't get Justin Fields back, the quarterback market is pretty slim. Some people are going to balk at this. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has looked so bad his last two games that he might have actually priced himself down to where Pittsburgh might be able to afford him. He might take a 1 year, $15 million deal, a prove-it deal with that. If he wants a big deal, I don't think Pittsburgh is going to pay it. At that point, I would move to the bridge quarterback and one of the younger free agents. Bridge quarterbacks available. Andy Dalton, I would pass on him. Joe Flacco, for the right price, maybe bring him in for a year and maybe he can mentor one of the younger guys I'm going to mention. Jameis Winston. That's how much does Jameis Winston want? Or is Cleveland going to try to bring him back? That's where it's I don't know. But I would aim for Joe Flacco. Winston can be solid, but once again, are we trying to be solid or are we trying to build to the future? So I would, if I can't bring back Fields, I'm going Joe Flacco and one of the younger quarterbacks. In preference, Kyle Trask at number 1, Mac Jones number 2, Zach Wilson number 3. I don't believe in Zach Wilson. I think he was a mirage. I still can't believe he was drafted number 2 overall over that BYU schedule. So I wouldn't really bring him in. That he would just be there to like maybe hypothetically he gets better. I don't think he would. Mac Jones, I know a lot of people hate Mac Jones. Maybe in the right system, Mac Jones can be successful. The guy I'd really want would be Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask, big guy, 6'6", like about 240. I had a decent career at Florida, was a late first-round pick, sat behind Tom Brady. They brought in Baker in a competition. He lost the competition to Baker, and Baker's played pretty well. So maybe Kyle Trask learning and getting an opportunity in Pittsburgh would be something. I don't think they have the opportunity to draft a quarterback, and that's why I'm going through all these things. It's not a great quarterback class. Maybe if Quinn Ewers falls, maybe take a shot at him in the first round. But I'm doing something else with the first round pick. That's what I would do for right now this year. The second hole you need to fill, wide receiver. The Pittsburgh Steelers wide receivers are terrible. They are awful. And I like Calvin Austin, but Calvin Austin is best a 3rd or 4th option on an offense. And he's been like really the number 2, sometimes the number 1 in the wide receiver group. So I like him, keep him, but he would be moving down in the pecking order here. The biggest issue is George Pickens. George Pickens, I've never understood the hype on George Pickens. Yes, he will make a spectacular catch, like amazing catch, and then he'll just run a terrible route and give you terrible effort and drop a ball. If a player in the NBA would hit 2 half-court shots a game and then miss his next 8 layups, would you think he's one of the best guard or forward or center or whomever in the NBA? No, you'd be like, well, it's weird he can do these impossible shots, but then he misses the easy ones. That's George Pickens to me. If I was Pittsburgh, I would try to trade him as quickly as possible, because if he's giving this much effort when he's on his rookie deal, he's going to want to get paid. And I think you're going to have to pay him soon if you want to keep him. Try to trade him for a third. I think a third's reasonable. Maybe a team will give him a 2. Unfortunately, the Raiders with Tom Brady, the Raiders have been traditionally the Steelers fleecing boy, new words I'm making up, new phrases, for when they trade wide receivers. They traded Martavis Bryant for, I believe, a third. Martavis Bryant got suspended after a couple games and never played in the NFL again. They traded Antonio Brown for a third. Never played a game for the Raiders. I don't think Tom Brady's going to allow that to happen, but I would trade George Pickens for a 2 for a 3. I like Freiermuth at tight end. I would get maybe, they have Darnell Washington, who's a big physical guy. I don't know if he's much of a pass catcher, but I use him more as a blocker. It depends on the offensive system if they need another tight end. I don't think they need another tight end right now. So, free agency. They have $45 million in cap. They can have another 10 if they cut Cam Hayward, but that creates a whole thing of we got to cut Cam Hayward. We have $9 million in dead cap, but $10 million more. So, what I would do, and I know this is going to be my suggestion for every offseason team, go out, sign T. Higgins. T. Higgins would be immediately upgrade this offense. I don't know if they can afford T. Higgins, because every team's going to try. Every team that needs a wide receiver is going to try to sign T. Higgins. But in a perfect world, sign T. Higgins. That's the thing. He's going to need so much money. I don't know if he's going to sign for less than probably not less than $25 million a year. If you can't get him, which I don't think they can, in a perfect world, you sign him in my second option, which is Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin coming off that broken ankle. I think Chris Godwin's been the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL for the past couple years. It's a broken ankle, so it's not ligament issues as far as I know. He can be back and not diminished. He's only 28. He'll come in. T. Higgins, Chris Godwin would immediately upgrade that wide receiver to that wide receiver room to something you're afraid of. But let's say we can't get T. Higgins, Chris Godwin, and then make a trade. First up, Cooper Kupp. I think the Rams are open to trading him. He has weirdly not really, these past 4 games, been kind of phased out of the Rams offense. So I think he's available. Now, the question is he phased out because he's not getting separation and you're worried he's declining? That's something for them to actually look into. But I would try to trade Cooper Kupp. And then my third option is also a trade. I would try to get Bo Milton. I know a lot of people are like, who's Bo Milton? Bo Milton is wide receiver 5 I think he's 4 now on the Packers. The Packers have so many great young wide receiver options. I would try to see, he has popped when he's had opportunities. He's looked decent. I think if you give him more opportunities as a young player, he might actually blossom into a solid player that you could get for a 5th round pick. And maybe I'm being crazy and the Packers are like, no, we want to keep our young wide receivers. But the problem when you have all those young wide receivers is eventually they're all going to get paid at the same time. Which ones are you going to keep? It's I think Bo Milton is by far the one that's going to be easily tradable. Offensive line. I think the offensive line is actually solid. They drafted Troy Falinatu. Butchered that name. I apologize, Troy. Do not hurt me. You're a big man. Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick this year, which they all played rather well until they got dinged up later in the season, which is to be expected as rookies. Usually they hit that rookie wall. But I think the offensive line's solid. Dan Moore is going to be leaving, or he's a free agent at least. I don't know if they're going to bring him back. He was on his rookie deal. Maybe he takes something. Maybe he likes playing in Pittsburgh and he'll take a cheaper deal. I have a feeling some team's going to overpay him, and he's only just been kind of an average guy. So I wouldn't break the bank to bring him back. So I think the offensive line's fine. That's what I would do to fix the offense. On the defense, I think the defense has been, despite kind of getting crushed these last couple games, defense is fine. I think they're kind of banged up, but the only guy you're going to have to replace is Dante Jackson. Dante Jackson is a free agent. He was playing for $6 million this year. I wouldn't pay him back at that. He's 31. The Panthers were going to cut him. They pretty much threw him in just for the Deontay Johnson deal. He played well. But a lot of cornerbacks play well when you're playing number 2. Joey Porter's the number 1, very good. Minkah Fitzpatrick, very good. Like, the pass rush is great. Cornerbacks play better when there's a good pass rush. So there's no need to overpay the cornerback if you got a great pass rush. So if he wants to come back for $3 million, cool. If not, I would look at just getting recycle one of these older cornerbacks, like Stephon Gilmore got a deal in Minnesota. He played well. You can find cheaper guys that have been around the block that looked bad because they were on worse teams and are getting kind of burned, but put on a better team. Hey, they look fine. Adoree Jackson might be willing to come over. He's been up and down. So that's how I fix that with free agency. The draft, I think. So ideally, if a quarterback falls, this isn't a strong quarterback class, maybe take a chance on Quinn Ewers. I know people are he's another divisive guy, but I think Quinn's got a skill set that he can be fine. They're not going to be able to get Cam Ward, who I think is quarterback 1, or Shedeur Sanders, who I think is quarterback 2. If Carson Beck had stayed in the draft, trade back and get him, I think he would have been a late first-round pick. And yeah, he had a lot of turnovers, but I think some of that was, him trying to play hero ball and could be coached out. But what I would do is offensive skill positions. We're going to need to replace Najee Harris and possibly Jalen Warren. Jalen Warren's a restricted free agent. He's 27. How long do you want to extend him? I'd give him a 3-year moderate-sized deal, maybe like $4 million a year. He might command more than that because he's actually looked the better running back. Najee, I don't think Najee's back. I think Najee's gone, and I think Najee was one of those picks they missed on that really set him back a little bit. I hate the whole Mel Kiper bullshit of running backs. Don't draft running backs because they don't do anything. Running backs can be as Saquon and Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs and I'm forgetting other people. If you're a good running back in a good situation, you can help your team win. So I don't have a problem with taking a running back in the first round. If Ashton Genty's there, if he fell because of the whole devaluing the running back, take him. I don't think he's going to be there when the Steelers pick. But I would try to get a wide receiver. The wide receiver class is kind of top heavy right now, but this year I would just try to hammer skill position. Try to load up wide receiver. If there's a tight end there, Tyler Warren might be available. Colston Loveland from Michigan. There's going to be a lot of people. It's a lot of people that want Pittsburgh to try to get a quarterback, but trading up for a quarterback, it seems it almost never works out because wouldn't you rather have more? The draft is such a fucking shit show. As much as Mel Kiper likes to talk about how he knows what's going to happen, he has no clue, or else the NFL team would be paying him $100 million a year. So my philosophy would be, if I was running the Steelers, we want to take as many picks as possible, many opportunities to get it right as possible. So trading up eliminates that. Yeah, okay, maybe if they have a guy they really love and they're only trading up a couple picks from 18 to 14, get it. But going from 18 to pick 3 or 2 is going to cost them so much, it's not worth it. So if one of the quarterbacks falls that they really like, grab that guy in the first round. If not, skill position, and then offensive lineman. Don't worry about the defense this draft. I want the Steelers to set up whoever is at quarterback next year for success as possible. That way, if it is Justin Fields, or if it's a guy like Kyle Trask, you could get an accurate, okay, we have weapons around him, we have a solid offensive line, what can he do? can he lead this team? If he can't, then hey, look to move forward and get a quarterback in the draft or somewhere else. But yeah, those are some just quick things that I would do to, not quick, but what I would do this offseason to help turn the Pittsburgh Steelers around, because they are just stuck in, to me, kind of a hopeless situation. I know Jets fans and Browns fans are like, hopeless. You're at least making the playoffs. But if you're just making the playoffs and getting the side smacked right out of it every year, you're not gonna. That's not a successful season. Okay, yeah. If the Jets make the playoffs next year, Jets fans are gonna be over the moon and be like, what a successful season. But that's because you guys have been down here for so long. Pittsburgh's been up here, and they want to get back up to the title, but they're stuck right here for the past so many years. Like when was their Super Bowl was like 2008. Like, it's been so long, and I understand Pittsburgh's frustration about, hey, we need to do something. But yeah, that's what I would do. Run it down. I would fire Mike Tomlin. They're not going to fire Mike Tomlin. So with Mike Tomlin there, I would offensive coordinator, a new one, someone who actually wants to play offense, get him out. Justin Fields, quarterback, give him 2 years. Let's actually see what he can do. Revamp the wide receiver core. That needs improved. I don't know why Pittsburgh has been, ever since Antonio Brown and the year Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster were there, the wide receiver group has fallen. I know some people say, well, what about Deontay Johnson? I think Deontay Johnson's recent value has shown that he wasn't as good as people thought he was. So that's what I would get weapons around these guys. We need a quarterback to actually step up and show that they are capable of being the guy instead of just these replacements like that they're going to cycle through. Well, that's all I'm going to talk about, because I think I'm talking in circles now, and if you clicked on this video, you probably stopped it about 21 minutes ago being like, what is this? Why is this ugly guy talking to me? Well, I'm done talking. So leave a comment about how much I suck, or don't, whatever. It's cool. Have a good day.